Welcome to the Leadership with Biana Kovic Show, and thank you for being with us. Our topic, leadership, focuses on leaders such as yourselves. We believe that leadership is a skill that can be learned through practice and awareness. It is our hope that our conversation will help you become more reflective when it comes to your own leadership practices and enable you to leave a positive legacy. Our very special guest tonight is Lesley Jane Seymour. Lesley Jane Seymour is a media entrepreneur and founder of Kovic Club, a new club for lifelong learners launched in February 2018. Kovic Club allows women 40 plus to bond over issues of interest and concern through virtual salons or topics in the Kovic Club monthly magazine, which is written and produced by the best journalists around the world. Kovic Club also offers a daily blog, weekly podcasts with women reinventing themselves, and a special list for high-level one-on-one networking. From 2008 to 2016, Lesley served as editor-in-chief of More Magazine, the leading lifestyle magazine for women over 40 with a readership of 1.5 million. She was also the editor-in-chief and social media director of More.com, which attracted over 12 million monthly page views and 600,000 unique visitors. Before taking over More, Lesley served as the editor-in-chief for Marie Claire, Redbook, YM, and beauty director of Glamour, and a copywriter and senior director at Vogue. Lesley, good evening and welcome to the show.
Happy to be here.
Lesley, you were the editor-in-chief of More Magazine, Marie Claire Magazine, Redbook Magazine, and YM Magazine. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and your history in media?
Oh my God, 40 years of being in paper. And what a wonderful time it was. I was very, very lucky. I started out by being a writer and a journalist, and I really lived the high life of the magazine world. I used to call it Hollywood for non-actors because we got all the glamour, the beautiful world of fashion and beauty and travel, and we didn't have to get up on stage and memorize lines. I don't know how to memorize lines, but we got to walk the red carpet, and we got to go to fancy parties, and we got to sit in the front row of designer collections, and we got to produce beautiful magazines and wear fancy clothes, and people would stuff our hotel rooms with beautiful designer handbags that they wanted us to take to the collections and show off for the paparazzi. So it really was like Hollywood, I have to tell you. And I just had a wonderful time. I was a writer and a journalist, and I started off working for Women's Wear Daily, which was a fashion, they call it a fashion rag because it was all about the industry, where I was reporting about the people who made the clothes. And then I worked my way over to Vogue magazine, which probably everybody knows about, where I spent 9 years as a writer, and then various other properties, but that was the biggest one that you would know about. And then I went over to Glamour as a beauty editor, which was really fun. Beauty business was wonderful because so many women could get into the beauty business on the business side. You didn't have to have a lot of education. You just could start making things in your bathtub. And in fact, I actually discovered Bobbi Brown, the makeup artist who was making 5 lipsticks at the time, in her bathtub. And I wrote about her, and in those days, that was before the internet. The only way you heard about people was by reading about them in a magazine. And I literally put her into business. And today, what's really funny, I will still get tweets from people saying, Bobbi Brown is giving a lecture, and she's mentioning that you were a beauty editor and you wrote about her, and that's how she got the business. So I did that, and then I went off to run a magazine, which was a teen magazine called YM, and then got called over to do Redbook, which was for young moms. I was a young mom at the time. That was really fun. Then Marie Claire USA, and then More Magazine, which was for women 40 plus. And now I am doing an internet project, which is called Covey Club. Covey, C-O-V-E-Y, is a small group of birds. And I call it a club because it is a club for women 40 plus. And I'm basically taking the old More Magazine readership, because they folded More in 2018. I'm taking them online into a club. So we have content, and it's much like the printed content, though it's digital. You can read it all on your phone or on your computer. But we also have get-togethers that are both virtual in real life. So you get podcasts, you get virtual get-togethers where we do kind of panels that I conduct on Wednesday nights online. And you get to ask questions live of our experts. And we have a blog, and then we have a monthly magazine that's digital that comes to you when you sign up and belong. And then we have what we call IRL, in real life events as well. And it's really fun. I've never been an entrepreneur before, and I love it.
So I know that partially Coffee Club was inspired by your readership. They actually reached out to you when the Moore was closing down, that they wanted you to continue doing a magazine. And they actually took a 59-question survey to help you create this platform.
They mapped it out. I really literally followed their map. And today, anybody who's a researcher out there who knows, nobody wants to take a survey anymore. We've been surveyed to death. We're sick of it. You know, you're lucky if you can get anybody to take a yes-no survey. Do you like this? No, yes. No one wants to take a survey. These readers took 54-question survey to the end. That's how much they wanted it. And today, I still run into people who say to me, you know, I'm one of those first 627 people who took that survey. So I'm going to have to get them all T-shirts when I'm really successful. I'm going to have to find all those people and track them down and give them a free membership. But it's amazing that they did that. They mapped the whole thing out, and I'm literally following what they said they wanted and trying to create it. And what's so wonderful is it's kind of like, is this really what you want? Yes. Do you want to pay for this? It has to be a business. What's happened in the publishing world is that for really over 100 years, we've taught people that everything in publishing is free because it was all subsidized by advertising. That was great when we were doing printed material. What has happened since then is that with the internet, it has broken that sort of whole business model down, because as long as things were printed, the advertisers had to go through the editorial businesses to get to the consumer. What broke down with the internet is that the businesses realized they no longer had to go through the editorial businesses to get to the consumer. As any consumer out there knows now today, every one of their brands speaks directly to them. Whether it's Nike or Pepsi or whatever, they're all dying to get into your email box directly. They don't go through Sports Illustrated. They don't need to go through Vogue. They just want to talk to you directly, whether it's through TV or the internet or whatever. They're chomping at the bit to talk to you. They don't need a portal anymore. They might use them, but they no longer figure that's the best doorway. So what's happened is all those printed material, all those media companies have fallen apart. And what that means is the content that used to be created by the media companies essentially to you for free is no longer free. Because guess what? It was never free. It was just the ad people were paying for it. So that's the whole mix-up that's going on now. And what I'm trying to do is figure out, there are still wonderful stories that need to be told. There are still really important pieces of information that need to get put out there. There are still beautiful artists who have art that you want to see, but you're going to have to pay for the quality stuff. Yes, there's still a lot of free stuff out there, but don't kid yourself. There's a lot of stuff that you think is free. It's not really free. Somebody is paying to put it out to you, and it's not marked. It's being put out. It's not really telling you the truth. It's peddling something that may not really be honest. It's peddling something that may not really be healthy. It's peddling something. If it's free, you've got to ask yourself if it's really free. The separation of what we call church and state, which means editorial and ads, has broken down to the point where, and I've heard people say it, especially in print now because print is so desperate, that if you see anything that looks like editorial, it's all been paid for under the table. If there is an editorial credit, it's been paid for somehow, somewhere. And it's not marked, which means that if they're running that beautiful handbag, it's because someone took an ad, and maybe the month before. That Chinese wallet was very Chinese before. Now it's really not Chinese at all. It's been paid for. So where do you go to get that truth? The only way you're going to get real truth is to go to a place that's going to tell you this is sponsored content and this is not. And I am trying to come up with a system where you say to the consumer, okay, number one, we're not going to do advertising. We're not going to ask people for clicks. We're not going to try to fool you into clicking on clickbait and give you stupid stories that we know aren't true just to make you click so that we get more advertisers, right? We don't want to do that. There's plenty of what are called clickbait farms out there that give you ridiculous titles to click on. Just the only reason why they run those is so that they can go to their advertisers and say, see, I'm up 10% this month. Now you have to pay me more, right? And every time you click on those things, you're like, there's no story here. Well, there's no story here because there never was the story. I was just trying to get you to click so that I could go to my advertiser and get more money. It was never about you. I'm trying to go to the customer and say, I want to make the stories that you care about, and I'm going to ask you to pay more for that. I don't need 1 million customers. I only need the 200,000 customers that matter. But I'm going to ask you to pay more for that experience. And I'm not going to put 20,000 flashing lights in front of you when you're trying to read an ad. And when you're trying to read a story about ice cream, I'm not going to run tampon ads in the middle of it so that you're disgusted while you're trying to read the beautiful story about ice cream. I want it to be a beautiful experience. I want you to be able to concentrate. I want to be able to tell the real story. And I also want to be able to tell you the truth. If I have to tell you the truth about how much milk you should actually be taking in as a woman 40 plus, I don't want to have to lie about that because the milk board who's taking an ad doesn't want me to tell you not to drink milk. And that happens. That actually happened to me at Moore. They withdrew their ads because they didn't like, not that the fact that we didn't say that you shouldn't drink any milk, they didn't like the fact that we said that you should only drink 3 cups of milk a day. So all of that stuff has to go, but then the consumer has to say, okay, I'm going to pay a little bit more for that so that it's clean. And so there has to be a new model. And what I'm doing is I'm not doing just content because I don't think content is enough today. We, 40 plus, this generation is the sandwich generation. We are sandwiched between taking care of our older parents, taking care of our older children. We have less time for ourselves. We are more disconnected. We are more lonely. We need connection. It cannot just be reading in our brains. We need to get together. We need to meet. We need to connect. We need to help each other. And right now with what's going on with women in particular, we need a community. And so Covey is a community, and my goal is to serve. I'm looking for the top of the pyramid of this community. There's a large, large community of women 40 plus, but I'm really looking for the very tippy top of that community just because it's easy for me to target a certain group. The C-suite managerial group, which is, there are 23 million of us in the U.S., and I want 1% of those women, and I want to connect them around the country through Covey Club, and we use content as a connector. And the content can be everything from the light, which is what are the best mascaras for women 40 plus, because let's face it, your eyes change a lot as you get to be older, and the first time somebody goes to put mascara on you and they grab the top of your eyebrow and lift it up so that they can actually put the mascara on, you're horrified. But this is the truth. This is the way it is. It's very different. And that, or to talk about the reality of depression among 40 plus, women 40 plus, which has gone up 63% since 1999. And it's true. We have to have these discussions. So we talk about the light, we talk about the serious, we do in real life get-togethers, we do online coffee and conversations, which are salons on Wednesday nights, and then we do the lighter discussions. We do blogs, we do the magazine, and then we do the podcast. The podcast is called Reinvent Yourself. That comes out every Friday. I have 25 of them online already. You can get them on Podbean or iTunes. And those are a half an hour, and I talk to all kinds of women about how you can reinvent yourself after the age of 40, because no one is talking to us. They're talking to 20-year-olds about how they did it. And these could be reinventing yourself with your job. It could be reinventing yourself after a health issue. It could be reinventing yourself after a body issue. All coming at it from all different directions, because when you have reached the age of 40, you are in transition, either because you have a kid who is going into high school or college, or maybe you're partially empty nest, or you're approaching empty nest, or maybe you have a health issue, or maybe you have a widowhood issue, or a divorce issue, or a job issue. Maybe you've let go, or you're about to be let go, or maybe you're transitioning to a new city. Something is happening. You cannot possibly be stable for 20 plus years with nothing happening in your life. Maybe you're taking care of an older parent. Something is going to happen that's going to disrupt you. You're in transition, and you have to rethink something. And when that transition is happening, how are you going to handle that? And what I want women to understand is there are many roads for you. And just because you chose a road in your 20s does not mean that you have to stick with that road for the next 20 or 30 years. You've got a long life ahead of you in your career, in your life, in your relationship, to your community. And you should try new things. There are many, many, many things out there for you. We are healthier. We are happier. This is a generation that stands to inherit a ton of wealth coming up. This baby boomer generation. I put Generation X and baby boomer generation together, and we call it Baby X. We will have an incredible amount of wealth that we are inheriting that is coming our way. We need to think about legacy. We need to think about how are we going to deploy that wealth. I see a lot of women who are stuck in corporate life as they move into their 50s and 60s saying, I don't want to do this anymore, but I don't know what to do next. I'm afraid. How do I take that next step? I'm terrified of being an entrepreneur because I don't know what to do, but I don't want to do nothing. I'm not going to go sit on a golf course. I'm not a mahjong player. I'm not a tennis player. I still feel I want to be engaged with the world, but I don't know what that means. Where do I go? How do I get help? And we don't have churches. We don't have synagogues. We don't have public squares. We don't have, where do we connect? We don't. We think we connect online. We don't. I have 9,000 followers on Facebook. I know 10 of them.
So, Lesley, what are the top 3 things one needs to know when it comes to reinvention?
Reinvention is terrifying. And the hardest thing with reinvention is coming up with your idea. And one of the things that I always say to people is the first thing you need to do is if you don't have an idea, because that's the thing that keeps people from reinventing. They're like, well, I don't really have an idea. I know I need to do it. I'm stuck in a boring job. I don't want to do this for the rest of my life, but it pays my bills, and I can't come up with what the next thing should be. You really have to create what we call your kitchen cabinet. You need people from your past. Grab a friend from grade school. Grab a friend from high school. Grab a friend from college. Go get a couple of pizzas. This is not high end. A couple of bottles of wine. Get yourself one of those whiteboards, the thing, with the rip-off paper, and you get yourself a couple of markers. You get them into a room. You get them drunk. Stand there at the board, and you're going to ask them, what do you remember of me? What were the things I liked in high school? What were the things I liked when I was a kid? You're looking for threads that they remember about you that as you worked your way up into your adult life, you forgot. Because as we get older, we let go of all the things that gave us joy when we were little. As we were told, as we were experimenting with dancing, and we did tap, and we did baton, and we found out we weren't such a good baton player. And you were like, okay, I'm not going to be the head of the parade, so give that up. But as you get to be older, you may have a chance to go back and pick that up. Or you may be able to, maybe you're not the prima ballerina, but maybe you're a finance person, and maybe you could work your way into handling something for the local ballet. Who knows? You need those threads. You need to you start writing them down on that paper. And you need to work with those people to look for what are those old points of joy that you used to think about. And then your next thing, so you write those all down, you have those, you collect those. Then the next thing you want to do is get a list of what are the words that these people would use to describe your personal brand. This is the second part of it. What do they think of when they say, what are the words? Quiet, meek, unassuming, or ballsy, loud, annoying. Get the words. What do people think of? I have no idea. I don't know what you stand for. These are your starting points for creating your personal brand. Those 2 things will set you on your way. What is it, your lost threads in your past for finding out what your interest might be in reinvention, and then what your personal brand is. then you can go to the Covey Club website and you can read. We have tons of stuff about personal branding, tons of stuff about how do you find your starting point for reinvention. Also the Reinvent Yourself podcast, which we do. You start there. Because you've got to do that homework to get yourself started. And every single person says to me, they don't know where to start. Now, if you do know where to start, you're 10,000 times ahead of the game and you'll be fine. But that's the hardest part.
And what are your thoughts on reinventing with other people, friends, family?
Yes, everybody has an obligation of some sort. There's nobody out there, who's a little older. If you're not 20, you have an obligation. So what you can do this on the side, you start planning this slowly. I'm not saying to anybody that you just walk out on your job and la, 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 you're going to figure this out. This is a long process. You start it on weekends. You're going to start putting away some money into a reinvention. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's a separate savings account the way that you would do for a vacation. You put it aside, then you're going to start figuring out. It may take you a year to put aside enough. While you're figuring out what it is you want to do, you're building an account so that you're going to put aside money for reinvention. I knew that my last job at More Magazine was rocky for years. I had 5 bosses and 4 publishers in 8 years. You don't have to be a brain surgeon to know things aren't going good when you have that many bosses, right? Mm-hmm. So I said to myself, okay, the magazine business is in a tailspin. People across town at another company, you'd walk in one day and they're laying off 400 people. Gee, do I think that it's only happening at my company where I wake up every year and I get a new boss? Probably not. They're laying off 400 people at a time. Mm-hmm. Probably not. We're not going in a good direction here, right? So I said, let me strategize. What do I think the future is? I've already run 4 magazines. I probably don't want to run another one. And it doesn't look good for the magazine business here. What is my future? I decided to go back to Columbia University and pursue sustainability management. I am almost done with my master's up there. That was my reinvention plan. Doing this internet project was something that interfered with my reinvention plan, actually. Number one, because they terminated More Magazine before I was ready. I thought they were going to give me another year or 2. I thought we had a longer runway. But I had started back getting my master's. I thought I would go into the beauty business and go over into corporate beauty, into sustainability. I was very interested. I had originally gone in my 20s, picking up a thread, just like I tell you. I'd originally gone to university at Duke in North Carolina in my 20s to be a scientist because I was interested in the environment and marine biology. But when I got there, my science grades were not so great and my writing grades were excellent. And in my 20s, it was pretty obvious that I should go with the writing grades when I needed to make money rather than the science grades. And that's kind of what I did. I said, okay, where do you think the money is? Gee, probably in the A's and not in the B minuses, right? So I went that direction. I was right. And then I came back to it in my 50s when I had the opportunity to reinvent myself. I said, okay, now's my moment. I've kind of had this great, fabulous career, but this whole sector is falling apart. Here I am in Manhattan. Columbia has all these amazing, amazing master's degrees you can get at night. I was able to do it at night. And I started doing that. Lo and behold, when they pulled the plug, I wasn't finished with my master's. And then my readers came to me and asked me to do this reinvention project. I've been doing both at the same time, which is a total insane, crazy person's nightmare. So I'm doing both, which is totally, absolutely unexpected.
And you became an entrepreneur from running magazines.
While finishing up my first game plan, which was getting the master's. I had put aside I intended, and I totally worked very hard to put aside my severance pay. I totally planned, and I worked very hard to put aside my severance plan toward this reinvention. I said, okay, let me see. I made a good salary, but I planned. Now, not everybody can do that. But I do go around the country, and I do tell every single person I talk to, you must. I do not care what business you're in. I don't care what sector you're in. I don't care if you're in banking. I don't care if you're in manufacturing. I don't care what it is. You must have a reinvention plan in your back pocket, and you must have 1 year of your salary in the bank, because It doesn't matter if they love you. It doesn't matter if you've been with a company 22 years. It does not matter. It doesn't matter if you're the CEO. It doesn't matter because things happen today.
And you're not in
Things
control.
get disrupted.
Yeah.
It's not in your control. The company gets bought. The company gets moved to Ankara. The company gets dissolved. Somebody makes a bad trade somewhere, and like Lehman Brothers, it goes bankrupt overnight. I mean, there are things that happen today so fast because of the way communications and technology moves that it has nothing to do with you, that you just don't know. And you must have a reinvention idea and plan in your back pocket. And women especially tend to, and I talk to them all the time. I've gone up and talked, bankers are the worst. They're like, oh, we're so regulated, I'm in community banking, and and I've been here 22 years, and then, 4 months later I hear, oh, New England Bank went out of business. It's like, you just can't put your head inside the sand these days. And the way I look at it too is, guess what? If everything goes great and you end up getting your gold watch and you retire from that place, buy yourself a car, buy yourself a condo. But you must have enough money saved up for a year for a reinvention and have a plan in case it all goes sour. You may not have time to plan.
Right. And what are your thoughts, I'm sorry to interrupt, what are your thoughts on reinventing with other people? Like if you are really scared and you just have no ideas, what are your thoughts on saying, okay, maybe I'm going to reinvent together with Mary because she knows me the best?
Well, sometimes that's what you have to do. And if you can, that's always a great thing. I always envy the people that are able to find those partners and do it. I have not been able to find a great reinvention partner. I'm still looking. You have to find somebody who has the opposite kind of skills than you have. I think it's great if you can. I'm envious. Love to find that kind of partner. If anybody wants to call me who thinks they have the opposite skills as me, I love teams. I adore teams. So, yeah, I think it's fantastic if you can make it happen. I run cautionary tales all the time. I've written the stories about friends. Friends are very different when you go into business with them than when they're friends. I always think it's better to go into business with people who have been business friends, not friends. Be careful. Be very careful. But yes, if you can do that. And one other way, one really great leg to get in when you're really totally, absolutely stymied about what to do, or if you're caught unawares, or just all comes down without you knowing, one absolute great way to find your way out of a hole, take a course. You don't have to do what I did, which was jump in and go get your master's. Take a course. It could be the local, you've always been interested in jewelry making. I know people who have started jewelry businesses at the local high school level. They went into the local high school, what is it called, advanced, adult education thing, and they literally launched in their home businesses, second life businesses off that supported them in their second half of their career.
What you're saying to us, it doesn't have to be like a major transition. It can be something that runs simultaneously as you continue doing whatever you're doing.
Yes, and remember, you can do those kinds of courses too. You can do them on weekends. You can do them you don't have to, when I say that you can be saving up for things and you can be planning for your transition, if you're like, oh my God, I don't know what I want to do, whatever. If you have, you're looking through your local high school adult education things and there's something in there about jewelry making, you're like, I don't know if I'm maybe a jewelry maker, but I've kind of always been interested in jewelry. What the hell? Sign up for the course on Thursday nights. What are you doing on Thursday nights? Maybe, who knows? Try it. What the heck? It's $40, $60, whatever. Try it. What if? Take a wing on all those little things that kind of make your stomach go maybe, but don't knock yourself down. I guess that's what I'm saying. Give it a try, just give it a try.
And see what comes out of it.
Yeah, give it a try. Yeah. See what it feels like.
So you've been teaching a lot of women how to do a personal branding. How do you monetize that?
Well, personal branding is, it's a whole deep discussion. We do a lot of personal branding. You can find at coveyclub.com that we do a lot because it's a lot about making yourself stand out in a very homogenized world. The world today, because of the downward pressure of the internet and the downward pressure of everything is the same, and it's just, oh my God, everything is just so digitized, and people can't even find an HR executive to talk to. You know, in the old days, there were companies and there were phone numbers and you could call somebody and they would pick up the phone. That was their job. Now you have algorithms, and if you don't write the right words, the computer reads your resume and they spit it right out because you didn't put the right word in there. So personal branding is just an enormous task of trying to make yourself stand out in a crowd.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's vital, especially if you want to be heard and seen in any kind of corporate kind of environment. So we do an awful lot of that, and it's very important in terms of especially the entrepreneur or the solopreneur person or the person who wants to move ahead in any kind of corporate situation.
Lesley, you ran well-known magazines. What are the traits that leader needs to have to be successful?
Well, it's funny. I was always kind of a black sheep leader. I was never, I was always a very different type of leader. I have always been a team leader. I believe in team leadership. Hilariously, I never played any sports because I was always small and I was always afraid of the big girls running down the field swinging their hockey sticks at me, and I was afraid of getting hit. So I actually love teams because I never played on them. And the irony is, whenever they would do those like 360 Myers-Briggs or whatever, in the corporations that I worked for, you'd always have the woman who ran it who would always like come knocking on my door, and they would have this serious face, and they would sit down at my desk with me, and I would have to shut all the doors, and they would look at me and they'd go, we need to talk. And I'd be like, about what? And they'd be like, everybody else is in this command, top-down area, and you're in this team area quadrant here. I don't think this is going to work for you. And I'd be like, why not? It's like working for me really well. They'd be like, well, are you doing this on purpose? And I'd be like, yeah. And they'd be like, you are? And I'd be like, yeah. And that's why, you notice, all these people come back and they've worked with me 4 times now. They come from magazine to magazine to magazine because I worked for those people who were command people and wanted to do my job for me and only wanted to scare me half to death and not let me grow. And I hated it, so I do the opposite. That's why all these people love to work for me. And you can go talk to all of them, and they're here because they want to be here, not because they're afraid of me. They love me, and I let them do what they want to do. Why is that a bad thing? They'd be like, oh, okay. So anyway, I really never fit the mold. I literally had many employees who literally followed me from magazine to magazine because I didn't fit the mold.
Which is a great success to have.
Yeah, and that was the key to my success, is that I had all these micromanaging people and these monsters who I worked for, who I hated. And I literally, when I got my very first job as an editor-in-chief at YM, I had to call the woman who was the publisher of Glamour magazine, who was like my mentor, and I got this job, and I was like, oh crap, what am I going to do now? I've never been a leader before, and I've been only I was managed by the devil who wore Prada, and then this other woman who may as well have been the devil who wore Prada, who had run Glamour, who was just a horrible, micromanager, and I hated it. I had no instruction. And she said to me, do the opposite. And I was like, oh, okay, all right. And I found that what's really interesting, what I learned about myself and what I say to everybody who comes to work for me, I'm kind of like Ronald Reagan. I'm completely hands-off. You will hate me if you want to be managed. If you want to be managed, it's not for you. So, anybody who wants to be told what to do, I suck. So don't come here. But if you want to grow and really become more than your job and become, I'm the person you have to come, indeed, if you have a question, if you need guidance, if you need mentoring, you come tug on my sleeve and I will give you all that. But I fully expect you to like run the show. I just direct. Mm-hmm. I say, there's the hill. Go take the hill. Tell me what your plans are. You do it. I don't want to do your job. I got to do the other jobs over here, and I fully expect you to do that. So that's why people love to work for me. Except if you want to be told every day, come here at 5:05. Why aren't you here? It's just the wrong personality fit. But I know that. So, but for the right people, it's a joy. If you like to spread and learn and mm-hmm. I do for people what I always wanted, and I had a very hard time finding.
So you basically empowered your people to be able to do their job.
Mm-hmm. Totally too much, probably to the point mm-hmm. of like, I probably should be looking harder at some stuff that I'm not looking at. And there are probably moments where it's like, probably should have looked harder at that. Oh, well, whatever.
Mm-hmm. And what are your thoughts on low-performing teams?
Well, low-performing teams you have to manage. That's when you have to get in mm-hmm. there and weed it out because it's not fair to everybody else. Mm-hmm. That you have to do. That's when you have to go in and pull out because it's not fair to anybody else. Those people make everybody else angry. So that's the danger of being hands-off is that you have to have enough managers. And what I always do is I encourage people to tell me what's going on. And I tell everybody it's not helping anyone to keep it from me. I always had people who did come tell me. And it's painful to hear, painful to hear that, so-and-so hasn't put a piece in the magazine for the last 6 months. We've got to move her out. Mm. And there are people who take advantage. There are people mm-hmm. who slide around and don't do their work, and then you have to move them out.
So you think that addressing that and giving them some level of stronger feedback prior to moving them out would be an effective way to deal with them?
Oh, all these corporations, you have to give them feedback, you have mm-hmm. to document, blah, blah, blah. The problem today is that it's very hard to move people out, especially in a public company. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you're required to do the hard part is in these public companies is that you're required to do so many reports that it often looks like people on the outside like you're doing nothing, and you are doing all kinds of documentation mm-hmm. and meetings, and you're squeezing them, but you have to squeeze them on routine, and you're not allowed to say to the other people, this is what we're doing. You just have to smile and say, we're working on it. You have to jump through so many hoops. Mm-hmm. In many cases, sometimes you have to job eliminate. That's your only way out with a really bad performer. To job eliminate and create a different job in order to get rid of them. Because you can't get rid of them. They play all kinds of games with the Family Leave Act. We had one like that one time. Somebody who had done the, Family Leave Act can really mess you up, where somebody starts disappearing through using it, weekly. Mm-hmm. And then they just, because if you're running a very small team, the way that today is where it's so mean and nobody's knocking on doors to see who's in every day, right? Mm-hmm. And now today with teams that are in and out, and people are working from home, and you notice that somebody's not in and they're supposed to be in, they didn't turn the piece in, and where are they? And, the day just slides by. And we had somebody who was, had a daughter who had all kinds of issues, and they were supposed to be in this day, and they weren't in, and they didn't perform, and then you're 6 months in, they don't turn in pieces, and they're not there, and where are they? And it was Thanksgiving, and they were home, 2 days early, and then they were taking FMLA for half a day here and a quarter of a day here, and then you're literally trying to nail down mercury. Mm-hmm. And meanwhile, their teammates are picking up the slack because they've got to turn in the pieces because mm-hmm. someone has to fill the space. And they're wondering why this person is getting away with it. So, and you're not, as the manager, is allowed to say, they're not getting away with it, this is what we're doing. You're not allowed to say any of that.
Yeah. And that breeds the resentment, possibly, and anger within the team.
Resentment.
Yeah.
Terrible resentment. Mm-hmm. And you're running lean and mean, there's no slack anymore. You don't have like extra bodies. Nobody's going home at 4:00. Mm-hmm. So it's tough.
So that I
know?
assume that next question is conflict in a workplace. Have you ever dealt with conflict in a workplace?
Oh God, there's conflict every day in the workplace.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you put two people in the room, there's conflict. I remember when I was in my 20s, laughably, I remember being at Vogue thinking, now if I could just I want to find a job where there's no conflict. I want to find a job where there's no office politics. I thought that was hilarious. I really thought I was in the rat's nest of all rats, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, how naive can you be in your 20s to think that you're going to go find some place where there's no politics? And what I learned over the years working for many, many different companies is that every company has what I call its neurosis. Mm. Every company has a corporate culture that is neurotic and messed up, and it usually has to do with who's ever at the top, and it drains down to the bottom. Mm-hmm. And whatever neurotic features of the top dog, whatever neurotic feature, nothing is perfect, right? Mm-hmm. It drains down and it establishes itself. And it's like a family. You just have to pick which neurosis fits your neurosis. It's all going to be, there's dysfunction at every single corporation. And some are more dysfunctional than others. Public companies are equally dysfunctional. And you just have to pick which dysfunction you can live with. Mm-hmm. Which one fits your personality better? Because there's none. I remember just looking for like this undysfunctional company. When was I going to find a non-dysfunctional company? And so I laugh as I'm building Covey Club now. I'm like, okay, this will have its own dysfunction.
Because you're bringing many different people together.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And I have my own dysfunctions, and I can't be blind to that. So, I'll bring my own dysfunctions to it, I'm sure.
So looking back at your career in media, what were some challenges you faced as a woman in media industry?
Well, the biggest challenges as a woman in media was just the outright sexism of a media for women dominated by men. And just the wonderful part about being an entrepreneur and doing this myself now is not having to ask men, clueless men running women's divisions, can I do this? Is this okay? Or having them say to me, who's Lena Dunham? Who's Lisa Kudrow? Or say to me, let me ask my wife. I mean, so insulting. And not even have, I guess to be so audacious and to be so secure that it doesn't even matter, that they don't even know who these icons of women's culture are when you're running a women's business, that they can actually look the editor-in-chief of a women's magazine in the eye and say, who is Lena Dunham and who is Lisa Kudrow, and not even bother to look it up on Google first.
Yeah, to research.
That they're so secure being stupid men that it doesn't matter. That they're so secure. Like, this wouldn't even threaten their job as being the head of the women's division, that they don't know who these people are. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's
kind of like if I was a surgeon and you said, what's a scalpel? Hand me, what is it again? Hand me the scalpel. What is it? But I would never even think that would throw me out of being a surgeon. But I'm so secure. I'm so secure that I have a right to this job because I'm a man. And you're not even going to threaten me because you're a woman. You're so below me that the fact that I don't even know what a scalpel looks like doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm. So how did you deal with that? Because that must have been quite a disruptor.
What do you do? You collect your paycheck. Mm-hmm. You write your stories. You turn out a fabulous product. You try to figure out how to do everything you can in politics to topple these guys. And beat your head up. There was nobody in that company. You'd go to these meetings every year and you'd watch them all stand up and talk about how they published all the leading publications for women. And you'd look at all the the 4 men standing on stage, and then they would bring up the woman in HR. And you would just, what are you going to do? You know, you put the anonymous question in the box when they would say, ask us anything, you know, and you put the question in the box, and, you know, and then which would say, gee, why does this company that makes only products for women have no women in the top tier, you know? Mm-hmm. And then you'd put it out there in your magazine. You would put that out there. You would ask the questions when you could. All the obvious questions are out there, and you can't get them to listen. You can't get them to change you until you're out, and then you talk about it. Unless you want to lose your job, until you're ready to give up the paycheck, what are you going to do, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I guess you just play along.
You play along until you can give up the paycheck. Mm-hmm. And, you know, that's what you do.
Now you are an entrepreneur, and I was wondering, what are the advantages of being an entrepreneur?
I can just do whatever I want to do, and I can pull women together, and I can just make it happen. Mm-hmm. And I love the fact that I can have an idea at 9 in the morning, and I can execute it by 9 at night.
Oh.
And I don't have anybody standing in my way, and I love that. I love the fact that I can move fast. You know, the last company I was in moved at a snail's pace. I don't understand how a media company can move so slowly. I've never seen anything like it in my life. Mm-hmm. You can't do that today. I don't get it. Mm-hmm. I love the women I am meeting. I love the men I'm meeting. I love the entrepreneurial world. Getting out of big corporate life in media, big corporate life in media I think it's just deadly. Mm-hmm. I think that's not where it's happening. I think there's a whole new world being built outside of the corporate world, and it is just the energy, the interest, the people, the life, the giving, the happening, the invention, the learning, every single day I get up, my brain explodes with learning. Hmm. And it's joyful. It's just joyful. Whereas I used to go in every day and just plod through the day and try to do what I could do. I turned out a fabulous product that people loved. It was wonderful. But God forbid you send a note to somebody saying, hey, I'd like to try this, and this on the internet that's new, and you get that note going, no, we can't do that. Nobody wants to be bothered. Next. Mm-hmm. You know, it's just I'm all about new, but I grew up in the fashion and beauty industry, so I love new. Mm-hmm. I'm just a new junkie. Hmm. So I love a new app. I love a new way to push things out. I just love new. I thrive on new. Big old public companies don't like new. It messes them up. They run on efficiency. You can't be efficient if you're trying something new.
That's true.
They hate new. New makes them think. They don't want to think. They just want to do. They just want to keep doing the same old thing with less people, less money, and that's it. Less people, less money, and hope it keeps working. And that's not what being an entrepreneur is about. And I love the energy. I love the way that older women who have so much experience, who are being tossed out of the working world right now, are gravitating to me and saying, these are women who I have known for the last 30 years, 40 mm-hmm. years, who I met when I was a beauty editor, who are calling me up saying, oh my God, I'm so scared. I've done this for 40 years. I can't do it one more day longer, but I don't know what to do next. What can I do? And I'm like, just call me. Mm-hmm. We'll mm-hmm. figure out something. I don't have a lot of money, but you know how to do A, B, C, D, E, and F. Come up, sit at our table. We'll plug you in. I can't promise that I know what it'll be, but you have 25 different talents you haven't used. Mm-hmm. And you can help us organize God only knows what. I don't know what it is, but we'll figure it out. And it's so much fun. But mm-hmm. you have to take off your high heels and take your makeup off, and you don't have to wear your Spanx. And there's a whole life out here. And we can have fun. And there's life after that life you've had. And there are things to be done, and there are women to be helped, and there are things to be built. And we have so much expertise and we have so much knowledge and we have so many connections that we can share. And let's do it. Let's do it.
Because it's never too late.
It's never, and it is really never too late. I am 61 years old, and I have never been happier every day to get out of bed. And it is amazing to me. I think I am more excited to get out of bed now than when I was 20 years old, the day I got off the plane after graduation, and I was going to my first job at Women's Wear Daily, which was the most exciting job I ever had in my life. They literally threw me onto 7th Avenue in New York and said, go cover the fashion industry. I had no idea what I was doing. I had a pad and a pencil, and I started going to showrooms saying, what's new? And I started looking at clothes and writing things down and writing stories and meeting designers, and it was so much fun. And how much fun was that? I was talking to fashion designers about what they were making. And I was going to parties at night and going to Studio 54 and watching Bianca Jagger jump out of a birthday cake for Calvin Klein's birthday. And I didn't know what had hit me. And it's like that. But I'm 61. How can that be? I'm supposed to be on a golf course somewhere, right? I don't play golf. So what's going on here? What's going on here is the internet. And what's going on here, we are living longer, we're healthier, we don't want to disconnect, we also want to continue to contribute, we have things to do, we have worlds to change, and our voices matter. And I know how to make voices matter. I know how to make women's voices matter. I know how to amplify. And I can do that, and I can do that from my little computer sitting in my home. And you couldn't do that 40 years ago. So that is what is the miracle. The miracle is what I do today. You had to be part of a corporation, and you had to have $50 million in your pocket. I can do it today, and I can do it with my severance pay.
Any final thoughts?
Yeah, so I think what we have to realize is that maybe we haven't made it as far as we thought we'd made it. I think a lot of this generation of women thought they'd made it to a more equal society than we thought we had got to. And I think as far as leaders, I think we need to work with our Gen X friends, both male and female. We need to work with our millennials. We need to work with our Zs who are coming up. I feel like we are backsliding, or we're in danger of backsliding in terms of getting equality for, and not just for women, it's for men as well. I look at my millennial men, and I have a millennial son, they don't want to carry this whole thing themselves either. We need a more equal workplace. We need a more equal society. We need a more economically equal workplace. Women can carry a bigger part of the GDP. Why do we have to leave it to men? We know the numbers. We know the research. Women can, when you bring women in to the peace table, you get more peace. When you bring women in to business, you get more sustainable business. You get bigger returns on your investment. It all makes sense from economics, from peace and stability. It all makes sense for everybody. Men, women, everybody wins. I think that all leaders have to look and say, we are not there. We thought we were there. Let's all join hands. Let's all work together. Let's work with each other, and let's move ourselves forward. It is to everybody's benefit. And I think that's the next 20 years probably. I think we were maybe a little too, maybe we just sort of rushed ahead of ourselves. We got ahead of our skis or something. Thought we had it all done and we were all going to go, drink martinis on the beach or something. We're not there. We have to work a little bit harder. And I think leadership is all part of that. I think both men and women need to lead on this. And I think we have to be aware and say we're not there. It's probably another third of the mountain. Even though everybody's exhausted, I think we can do it, and I think we all have to recognize it and We have the numbers. The good news is the research has been done. We have the numbers. The numbers are there for both the men and the women. The men do not lose when they see the numbers that say adding women makes it better for everybody. That's the great news. The great news is add women, we all win. Right?
That's great.
Good for men and for women. So I hope that that's a beneficial closing point for everybody.
Wonderful. So how can people get in contact with you?
They can get in contact with me. I am always available at, first of all, on our Covey Club Facebook page. Those are always available there. Or they can reach me at Lesley, Lesley, @coveyclub.com. And they can come join Covey Club, which is coveyclub.com. And it's COVEY club.com. And we would love to have them all come join, see what we're doing, and join our fun.
Thank you, Lesley, for being a guest tonight.
Thank you for having me. I so appreciate the thought.
Thank you for tuning in and listening to the Leadership with Biana Kovic Show. Remember that you're all leaders in your own rights, and the impact that you're meant to achieve starts with small acts of kindness, curiosity, and generosity. Please give us a like and subscribe to our channel. Thank you again, and until next time.